a berth in the semifinals against Michael Siegrist.
Again, Parke down a game, Vipin up a game with Affinity, and we've seen a lot of Affinity over the course of this weekend. This is the most played deck on day 2. This is a deck that made it through the highest percentage on day 2. So we cut into this matchup. I'll let you update the board, say. What do we got out here?
Yeah, well, it looks pretty bad for Jamie at first because Vipin has 2 lands, 2 Ornithopters, a Springleaf Drum, and the Cincher, a Vault Scourge with a cranial plating on it, to Jamie's Spellskite. However, things are maybe not as they seem because Jamie has cards like Deceiver Exarch and Pestermite that can tap this Vault Scourge on the attack, and he could win as soon as next turn.
Now, we don't know the contents of Jamie's hand right now. It's a surprise to us, just like it is at you guys at home. But what we do know is that Vipin has a good board. Jamie has the potential to kill out of nowhere, and we're going to see how these events unfold as Vipin is playing very carefully, as you should when you play against Splinter Twin. So he's tapping 2 copies of Blinkmoth Nexus. He has an Arcbound Ravager in his hand that he's considering maybe deploying here.
All right, so yeah, and one thing is if Vipin has a removal spell, he can play around. He can basically shut off Jamie's turn 4 kill. I don't believe he does, so it's possible the only line Vipin has is to just jam here and hope that it works. He has double black, so he can toss a cranial plating around, but I don't think he can deal 11 on just on this turn. It looks like he has a turn 4 kill.
You see the number of artifacts out here. Vault Scourge, if we count how powerful that is, it's obviously got 1 power itself, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other artifacts in place. So right now, it's a 6-power creature. It can certainly become more with, those Blinkmoth Nexuses being turned on or Arcbound Ravager being deployed before combat. So currently, a 6-power creature, and you see Jamie kind of doing the math, trying to figure out, okay, how much damage I'm going to take, but he can be so much more. One
thing you have to know when you count with so you say Arcbound Ravager and Cranial Plating, that's actually one of the easier ones to count in the deck because they count, basically Arcbound Ravager does not play nice with Cranial Plating in that if you sack an artifact to make the Ravager grow, well then the plating shrinks by 1. So they always sum to the same thing.
See, Vipin, I think, is trying to figure out here himself, how much damage can I deal, how quickly can I deal it, because I don't want to play more turns in this game if I don't have to. I don't want to give him more draw steps to get closer to Splinter Twin with Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite. I want to get the game over with just as quickly as I can. Now, Parke does have defense for his combo. Spellskite don't make it so that if Vipin does have a card like a Dismember or something of that nature, you can redirect it over to the Spellskite. So Parke is, for lack of a better term, protected right now. Now, that being said, that part of the combo is protected. His life total, not really so much.
Yeah, I mean, if you played any amount of Modern, you know that there's a turn 4 kill in Splinter Twin.
Yep.
It happens all the time. What Vipin can do in this matchup is he can force Jamie to just have it. He has to have the Skite into Exarch, into Twin. Anything less, and he loses. Well, Jamie has the first part of the equation down. And the thing is, we don't know if he has more.
And now the tough thing here, too, is that because Jamie's got all these different one-ofs in his deck and all these different things he can do, Electrolyze, Anger of the Gods isn't going to matter right now. He can have an Exarch or a Pestermite. There's a lot of different things he can do, and it looks like he does have something here. And this is going to be a Deceiver Exarch. So Vipin says, that's fine. Target your Vault Scourge. So that will be tapped.
Yeah, he can actually still deal, that's not going to interrupt the 2-turn clock. If he wants to, Vipin can make double black here, throw the cranial plating over to one of the Ornithopters, and still attack for half of Jamie's life total.
So it looks like we're going to have a post-combat Arcbound Ravager.
Yeah, he declines to make the double black play.
Yep. Maybe this lets Jamie get out of this alive. Now, there's a Glimmer Void available, and that can represent a couple of different things, because if you look at Vipin's deck, it's a little bit different than some of the other ones we've watched today. He does have 4 copies of Galvanic Blast, and he does have access to some cards in his sideboard for Parke to be a little bit scared of. But Parke, and I think you see that red card in his hand, it's a copy of Splinter Twin.
So it's a bluff that he has a removal spell. The problem with that bluff is that Jamie has to call it,
Well, also, Jamie has a Spellskite.
Yeah, he has a Spellskite to Vipin's 1 card. The bluff doesn't actually work. And even if it did work, even if it was a real bluff, Jamie can't not go for it here. He's going to die. So if he has the Splinter Twin in the 4th land, he's just going to make it.
Well, he's shown he has the 4th land, and he's playing a Steam Vents untapped. That's a 2nd red. And Jamie says, you can cut if you want. I don't know if you're going to need to. And Jamie says, that's your deck, not mine. So maybe a few nerves here.
That's fine. Yeah. They're just laughing about it.
And we'll get a ruling on this and everything. Obviously, that was purely accidental. The judge says, Vipin, set your deck down. You might need to pick it up in just a moment, but you don't need it right now. And it's funny because I think we're going to go through all these theatrics here of, okay, you know, this might be a warning or a caution or all these things, and slow down the gameplay. Jamie's going to go, all right, I'll cast Splinter Twin next so I can kill you.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Affinity has no deck manipulation in the deck at all, so technically picking up your deck and shuffling it at any point, it gains you no competitive advantage at any time.
And Jamie says, what are you doing? Let me cast my Splinter Twin. And Vipin says, look, I'm dead, man, okay? I'm sorry. So we're even up here, and we're going to go to a third and final one in just a moment. Quick updates for you guys on the other matches as well. Again, we saw Michael Segrist win his match 2-0. He is going to play the winner of Parke and Chackonal. On the other side of our bracket, Brian Liu, Nyapod, he's up a game over Ben Friedman. They're still battling it out in game number 2. And then Josh McClain, Oscar Jones, they're still in game number 3 in the Malirapod mirror. Now, Matthias, my friend, you see the sideboards on the screen. Let's start with Vipin's. What do you like over there?
Well, the best thing that Vipin can do in this matchup, he's already done, and that's that he's going to be on the play.
Step 1 is that's a good step.
Good. All right, in addition to that, he does have cards like Thoughtseize, which can disrupt Splinter Twin. I like those. There are a couple cards made for this matchup. Torpor Orb, Spellskite. Those are excellent. I have to imagine he'll use all of those. Even a card like Spell Pierce is not unreasonable to be playing.
Jamie Park's side, you see 2 copies of Battered Skull and Engineered Explosives, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Blood Moon, a Threads of Disloyalty, 2 Ancient Grudge, a Dispel, an Echoing Truth, 2 Anger of the Gods, and a Flame Slash. Now, oddly enough, we watched Jamie Park on his match playing for top 8 play against Affinity. So a lot of what we talked about there, we'll actually talk about here. 2 Anger of the Gods, fantastic. Flame Slash, the same thing as well. You also like Engineered Explosives. The ability to set it to 0 and or 1 in this matchup to blow up a lot of things is obviously quite powerful. And we also like the ability to play Threads of Disloyalty in this matchup, as it can actually take a Spellskite, which is important. And it can also take some of the lesser creatures to slow down the Affinity train, but I think a lot of the times you're going to bring in that Singleton Threads with the ability to take a Spellskite, and I could talk about Ancient Grudge at length, but I think I'll save everyone the trouble.
Yeah, that card's pretty good against Affinity.
Yeah, not so bad. So
Parke
is taking a little break here, maybe step away. So I think we're going to stick with this one as the other matches are in progress. We won't be able to cut over there. You can see in the background on Parke's screen, Josh McClain looks deep in the old Tankaroo against Oscar Jones. I can't wait to figure out what the result of that's going to be. Again, Josh McClain has a Grand Prix title with Malirapod already in Detroit. 2nd place at Grand Prix Miami, losing to Reed Duke in the finals. And then 11th place at the Pro Tour, Born to the Gods in Valencia just 2 weeks ago. Come back to us really quickly. I don't think you guys want to stare at any blank screens when you can stare at Matthias and I. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But Josh McClain is a very accomplished player. Oscar Jones looking to make a name for himself, which he's done a pretty good job of on Magic Online, but now he's having some real-life success as well. And the winner of that match is going to play against either the winner of Brian Liu and Ben Friedman. So we're going to have birthing pods in one way or another on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, there's the birthing pod half of the bracket.
Yeah.
So I imagine that in the finals we'll see a birthing pod.
Now, as we wait for this match to continue, I'll ask you a question that I know Twitter has been asking recently, and I'm a little curious to your thoughts.
All right.
We just had a banning and unbanning. Wild Nicottle in, Bitter Blossom in, and the old Deathrite Shaman, bye-bye. We've got 5 birthing pod decks in top 8 right now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is something we saw before the bannings, was that the 2 decks that were dominating Grand Prix were Jund and Birthing Pod.
Yes.
And we're not seeing Jund right now. There was a targeted ban at Jund. I don't, it depends on the philosophy here. Birthing Pod is a very powerful card, and one that some people thought may have been banned last time. I would wait until the meta has a chance to adapt, but, these kind of results do speak volumes about the card.
5 is a lot. 5 is a lot, man, in the top 8.
Yeah, 5 is a lot. I think if every modern deck is starting to put 4 or 5 of the same deck, if every modern tournament puts 4 or 5 of the same deck into the top 8, that's getting into the bad range for things.
Now, does it matter that in a 4,300 person tournament, 5 birthing pods top 8? Like, what if it was a 1,600 person tournament and 5 birthing pod top 8? Would we care? Does the number of the people in the tournament, does that influence anything?
Well, it actually is a stronger endorsement if you have a 4,300 man tournament, because sometimes. And you see this in Legacy, a deck that is not like a tier 1 deck makes it into the top 8 because it runs well. Decks have to run very well to top 8 this tournament. So I would say Fringe decks had a harder time top 8ing at this event than they would at other decks. What it shows is that, if you want to talk about decks that are just good, it's Pod.
Yeah, I think it was a great choice for this tournament. Obviously, you've got 5 in the top 8. We don't see Nyapod a ton, but we've even got 1 sliding in there. And we've got some pod masters playing what they know. Obviously, McClain does have a Grand Prix title with that deck. Ben Friedman has been playing this deck a little while as well. And we see, again, 5 copies of different birthing pod strategies make the top 8 of this tournament, along with 2 copies of Affinity. And Affinity we've seen win modern Grand Prix before, and it is a very powerful deck. I don't think anything needs to go from that because it is a pretty linear, aggressive deck that if you want to beat it, you can. It's not too tough. As we do have an update for you guys, my Josh McClain fans at home, you will be disappointed. Oscar Jones, your 2 seed, is moving through.
Yeah, so far, the bigger names falling to the younger talent here. Oscar Jones moving into the round. He's the number 2 seed. Our number 1 seed, Michael Siegrist, defeating Luis Scott Vargas as well.
Our 2 most accomplished players in the top 8, arguably. Of course, Luis the most accomplished. You can argue who's more accomplished between Parke and McClain. Well, McClain is gone now. So Oscar Jones, congratulations to you. We'll see you in the semis as well, as Vipin is going to start off his game with a Blink Moth Nexus, a couple copies of Ornithopter, a Springleaf Drum, and a Vault Scourge after taking 2.
And we saw this with Siegrist. Anytime Affinity puts 5 permanents on the battlefield on turn 1, you have to be concerned if you're playing against it. That's not something decks are supposed to be doing.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, your move. I've got 5 permanents, you've got none. Do your worst.
On Jamie's side, it's like when they do that on turn 1, I would just assume that Vipin's going to kill me on turn 4. So all my plays are going to be built around that premise.
Yeah. Serum Visions to begin here for Parke, the world's runner-up in 2008.
He can either try to race Affinity by assembling a turn 4 of his own and hoping that Vipin doesn't have a turn 4. I don't like that plan as much. When I see a great start like this out of Affinity and I'm playing against it, as Jamie, I think you have to become more of a control deck here. You have to say, well, I can't really race this turn 4 kill, or what's likely a turn 4 kill, so maybe I can just remove the key pieces instead. You start looking for cards like Ancient Grudge, Anger of the Gods, instead of, say, Deceiver Exarch.
Yeah. So after the scrying takes place, you've got Vipin. He'll draw a card. You see in his hand right now, he's got a Torpor Orb, so he's got one of his hate cards. He's got an Etched Champion, which is quite good this matchup, because you can't tap that one down, whereas a Plating well, but not too much else. So, he's looking for, again, one of those powerful, awesome cards in the deck. Steel Overseer, Cranioplating Arcbound Ravager. Doesn't have it just yet. Just a modest attack for 1.
Yeah, he does have a Torpor Orb in hand and another Drum. So he can cast some things here.
Yeah, I mean, he can play the Torpor Orb and then left for the Champion, which he can play next turn, because you can basically look at Drums as a land and the Nexus as a land, and you see him actually move those to the back row. I didn't tell him to do that, I promise. It just makes it easier for him and you guys at home. So he's got access to 3 mana, but he's got 3 mana, a bunch of stuff, and playing on a 1/1.
Yeah, Torpor Orb's going to be pretty strong here. If you look at Jamie's hand, I think he has a Flame Slash, he has a Deceiver Exarch. It looks like he may actually just have the combo in his hand. So certainly he's going to have to get rid of the Torpor Orb, and I don't know if he has a way right now to do that.
He's got some ways in his sideboard. Of course, we did talk about Ancient Grudge. There are 2 copies of those hiding out. He's got his Engineer Explosives that he can set at 2 to blow up that Torpor Orb, and that, in truth, will get the job done momentarily, but pretty much a moment is all he needs.
Yeah. There's that. I also, looking through his hand, yeah, you see a Flame Slash, and I believe that last card, and this is a pretty good one if it is, maybe an Anger of the Gods. Yep. Remember, Etched Champion is a card that he actually just can't answer.
Yeah.
But certainly taking away this critical mass from Vipin will do a lot to lessen the impact of future Ravagers or Cranial Platings.
Vipin says, I'm going to fire Blink Moth Nexus. I'm going to get in for 2 points of damage while you have an island available. So Parke is going to take 2. He's going to go down to 17. And does Vipin have a follow-up play? He does, and I believe it's a good one in a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, and I was going to first say this is very risky by Vipin because a sweeper would make it so we can't even cast that Etched Champion. I mean, so I think if there is an Anger there, if there's a sweeper, he's going to be, and there is, he's going to be locked into taking it. He can't actually let Jamie untap and cast Anger. He'll be down to 1 mana.
Yeah, and you can see Parke's a little bit frustrated here as the Anger of the Gods is likely going to go. You see the rest of his hand, 2 copies of Deceiver Exarch, a Snapcaster Mage, a Flame Slash, and a couple of lands. Now, not to say that Parke can't operate, because he still can operate pretty well with the Flame Slash and maybe Snapcaster Mage on chump blocking duty, but, Snapcaster isn't going to be able to flash back anything due to Torpor Orb, and Exarch's not really going to do very much right now. Yeah,
so Jamie has a hand that's pretty good, but is 100% has to find an answer to Torpor Orb. He's going to lose that Anger of the Gods here. There's no way Vipin's taking anything else, because he just loses to the card.
Well, as Justin Bieber would say, never say never.
Never say never.
I'm sorry I did that.
Okay.
I am. I really am. So Vipin will take a look here with Thoughtseize. I'm with you. I think if I'm in Vipin's spot, I select Anger of the Gods and move forward. I've got the 3 blue creatures taken care of. I've also got Flame Slash, which I know about, Flame Slash is going to take care of a creature. I know about that. I can move forward accordingly. And there does go the sweeper and Anger of Gods.
Well, that's one of the nice things about Affinity, and especially this draw. Like, Flame Slash kills a creature, but that doesn't actually matter. I mean, it's going to kill like a 1/1 or an 0/2. The creatures Vipin cares about, i.e. Master of Ethereum, Arcbound Ravager, it's not even going to kill those.
Yep. Looks like Parke picked up a land for the turn. It wasn't Island. So his big plan of Anger of the Gods is gone for now. Now, of course, he does have another copy of that. And if he is able to get Torpor Orb off of the table, then Snapcaster plus Anger of the Gods is a realistic play. But as we mentioned, I think priority number one here for Jamie, because it's not underneath a lot of pressure, is just getting Torpor Orb out of the way.
I mean, once he has Torpor Orb out of the way, his hand's very good.
Yeah.
He has Snapcaster to snap back, well, Anger or Flame Slash or Serum Visions. He has Exarchs. They're actually pretty, you know, they can't really block right now, but they can delay a cranial plating for a long time.
Yeah.
He's got time, he's got mana, he's got removal. He just doesn't have the combo. He doesn't have, like, you can't get rid of the Torpor Orb.
But let's not forget, when you play against Affinity, every draw step is a sweat, because a cranial plating could come rolling off the top at any point.
Yeah, and when it does, you usually just die. So it's...
Now here's a Snapcaster Mage. That's going to come into play, and that is not going to work. So.
Oh, and he's missing his own Torpor Orb.
Yeah, and I think Jamie missed that play. His setup here, Snapcaster Mage into Serum Visions to smooth things out, will not work, as Vipin does point to the Torpor Orb. So a bit of a misstep there.
Yeah, and what that means is that if or when Jamie gets rid of the Torpor Orb, he's going to have a little less action in his hand because he won't be able to snap that Serum Visions.
And he just has to pass the turn back here. A little bit frustrated, but it's not the end of the world. That's not a game-losing mistake. It's just one that makes things a little bit more difficult for him, as Vipin is going to go reaching here for the Vault Scourge. He drew a Blinkmoth Nexus for the turn.
Yeah, and this is relevant. Vipin's actually getting a mass of flyers that's pretty threatening. So right now, Vault Scourge is 1. Etch Champion is going to be another unblockable 2. The pair of Blinkmoths mean that actually Jamie's going to start taking 5 a turn. So I'm going to guess that while Jamie's at 16 right now, that it's actually a 3-turn clock. I have pretty good confidence that Vipin will be able to find some way to get that last point in here. So if I'm Jamie, I'm thinking about it that way, thinking, okay, I'm on a 3-turn clock.
There is the Etched Champion, as Parke will take a draw. It's an island. He's on the hunt for an Ancient Grudge or an Engineered Explosives.
This is one of the things that actually Patrick was talking about in one of our previous rounds. He thinks that when they finally finish their cycle of temples, the red-blue one, I think, will probably have the most effect in Modern. And like, it's board states like this that makes me inclined to agree.
Yeah. I hadn't even considered that, the effect that it'll have on a different format as opposed to Standard.
I mean, red-blue certainly is the color pair, the combo pair, I'd say, in the format.
I have to agree with you. So you see an attack here from the Vault Scourge and the Etched Champion. Of course, Snapcaster Mage can't get in front of the champion, Metalcraft.
Yeah, so
many times over.
If you're Jamie, like, oh, that's great, he didn't activate the Blink Moths. You're like, oh no, he didn't activate the Blink Moths.
Yes, that is not great, because now another Etched Champion has shown up. So now Parke is underneath even more pressure that cannot be blocked. So what does Parke do now? Does he deploy one of those Deceiver Exarchs even though he doesn't get any value out of it?
Well, they don't slow Vipin down at all.
Yeah.
I think you do because of mana efficiency. Say you draw the answer to that Torpor Orb, and maybe it's an Ancient Grudge, and you have 6 mana on that turn. You'd like to destroy the Torpor Orb and then immediately Splinter Twin the Exarch. You know, you can't waste time here. But as we see, there's no help on the way for Jamie. He has drawn yet another land.
It's time to fire. I was going to say, it's time to fire away with that Flame Slash. I know it's not sexy killing a Vault Scourge with the Flame Slash, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, outside of Spellskite, Affinity doesn't have great targets for Flame Slash. So it's possible that Jamie just wants to... I mean, sometimes you want to fire it immediately at a Vault Scourge. I think he was waiting here because he wasn't under too much pressure, and he really didn't want to lose to a Spellskite. But now he's trying to keep Jamie off of a 2-turn clock, and by destroying Vault Scourge, it's only 6 damage on the table, so he possibly bought himself a turn.
Yeah. That's one more turn for him to draw an Ancient Grudge or an Engineer Explosives. Vipin tapping a bunch of mana right now. He's going to say, you know what, Nexus? Let's do this. He's waiting patiently. Now, this would be an attack here for 6. That would put Parke down to 7. But if you take a look at that Scalding Tarn,
yeah,
makes it basically a 2-turn clock.
Jamie just can't crack Scalding Tarn.
Yeah.
You know, he only uses it, which it's actually heads up that he didn't end step fetch the Scalding Tarn. Or that he's not going to.
There you do see Blinkmoth Nexus. 2 of those coming into the red zone right now. And Vipin says you take 6, you go down to 7. If you sacrifice that Scalding Tarn, I've got a lethal attack next turn.
See a Deceiver Exarch in Jamie's hand, and the rest are lands.
Let's see what he adds to it. That was either a Slash or a Grudge.
Okay, I believe it's the grudge. So what Jamie has to do is he needs to go runners here. He needs that he needs a grudge, and his next draw needs to be Splinter Twin, and he needs that Vipin not to have any more points of damage. But if all those things happen, Jamie will win on 1 life.
Okay, that was okay.
That draw was good for us. Okay, that's for Jamie. That draw kept the game going.
Jamie Parke looks like he may be back in this. Attacking doesn't do very much right now, obviously, because the damage that he deals is incidental at best. You know, it's going to be all or nothing. As we do have a quick update for you guys in the other matchup, Brian Liu with Nyapod defeats Ben Friedman. The 6th seed is moving on to play against Oscar Jones, but let's keep our attention here.
Has been a clinic on the downfall of the pro players. Luis Scott Vargas losing in 2, Josh McClain losing in 3, Ben Friedman losing in 2, Jamie Parke, the final pro player, still in the top 8 here. Are any of them going to move to the top 4?
That's a good question, as Parke does come across for 3 points of damage. Vipin's going to go down to 17.
Yeah, and of note, Jamie did not get the breeding pool ever, so he's not going to be able to flash back this Ancient Grudge.
Yeah, but if he, as we mentioned, if he had fetched, it's bad news bears. So Vipin's going to untap all those permanents.
Unfortunately, because of the lands he drew, Kiki Jiki is not going to be an out here either.
Ooh.
And, well, I think his outs went from slim to none.
So this gets really interesting, right? Because Spellskite's in Vipin's hand now, right? So Vipin could very easily just go, okay, I will play a Spellskite, attack you for 4, put you down to 3, which would allow Parke to kill Spellskite, search for breeding pool with the Scalding Tarn, and actually still be okay.
Well, he still has to draw the Splinter Twin next
turn. We still have
already are on that.
We still have some luck to have happen here.
And it's not even Kiki Jiki, it's just Splinter Twin.
Yes.
Well, no.
Does he have a stomping ground?
He can get Stomping Ground on end step. He has one more fetch in his hand. He could get Mountain. So actually Kiki Jiki becomes an out now.
Okay, so. Okay. All right. You see Parke.
So what's actually true here is that, as odd as this sounds, I think the Spellskite is not a good play here. So if you just swung for 6, Jamie would have to go to 1. He just would have to draw Splinter Twin, nothing else. Because he played Spellskite and you give Jamie extra life, he now can draw Splinter Twin or Kiki Jiki as an out. So actually it's odd. By playing Spellskite against the Twin deck, you gave them more outs.
I agree.
Which, yeah, that's not counterintuitive at all.
Now we see a Nexus is going to go active here. And Vipin says, all right, it's time for me to attack you. And it looks like he's going to attack with the 2 champions and the Nexus. So Parke puts his hand down, analyzing the position, see if he needs to do anything, see if he can do anything, and says, all right, I'm going down to 2, it looks like.
All right, that extra activation, I will stand corrected. It can't be Kiki Jiki anymore.
Yeah, now it can no longer be. Yep.
And
all right, Jamie, here comes Ancient Grudge. Now, I don't think it matters too much on which card he targets between Torpor or Spellskite, because he has to kill them both.
He'll probably end up targeting Spellskite no matter what he tries to target.
So Jamie says, all right, Spellskite, you got to go.
All right. He is on a 4-outer here. Is he going to hit it? Oh, that would be something.
No, his fetch is... Nope, because he goes down to 1. You're right.
He's down to 1.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
He goes down to 1 from the Scalding Tarn.
Right, so the Kiki Jiki doesn't go. We're back saying it doesn't work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the reason it doesn't work, of course, is because Jamie's going to search out a green source here for Ancient Grudge. It can be a Scalding Tarn. Or excuse me, it can be a Stomping Ground, but it has to come into play tapped because he can't fire off Grudge now as well.
And he has to use that green mana to cast Grudge again. He can't use it to cast the Kiki Jiki, so he's on 2 red. And he doesn't have an untapped red in his hand. He has a fetch land, but that'll kill him. And if he draws the untapped red, well, that means he didn't draw Splinter Twin. So, the 4-outer.
Dealer 1 time?
Oh, man.
Dealer 1 time?
Oh, man, you're going to get it. That big shuffle.
Who are we rooting for at home? Are we looking for the 4-outer, or are we rooting for Affinity over there? Parke? He's counting the permanents.
Could make another Deceiver Exarch here. Yep. Gonna go ahead and that makes a huge difference.
Yep, might as well get it out of his hand. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna untap everything. It's Sweat. Let's see what card comes rolling off the top here for Parke. This.
And Splinter Twin. Ancient Grudge. Good card, not enough. You can't touch the champions.
It's a red card. but it's not the red card he's looking for, and he's going to analyze the board position here. He says, I can't kill the champions, and that is it. Vipin Chackonal does win this match 2-1. Jamie Parke's fantastic run is over, and we've got 2 Affinity decks into the semis.
Yeah, so once again, these starts where Affinity makes 5 permanents on turn 1, we're just showing how powerful they are. They're